The Otzros Chaim now goes on to one of the most fundamental and most misunderstood concepts in Kabbalah. And he goes on to say as follows, that as we discussed in the last Shaar, the purpose of creation was in order that the creations should gain an understanding of God and thereby connect to God, which would be the greatest pleasure that a creation could possibly experience. And that would be facilitated by God's revealing himself to be known as merciful, kind, and all the other attributes. And in order to facilitate this, he made Tzimtzum atzmo. God constricted himself, meaning he hid himself and his awesome power, meaning he hid the fact that his light, which is the infinite light, which in reality there is nothing other than his light, and he hid that and created a place within which someone who is found there does not see or understand that the entirety of existence is the infinite light, but rather it appears to the person and he feels as if the creations also have a existence. And then in footnote he explains that the word tzimtzum, which literally means constriction, should not be understood in its simple pshat level meaning. Namely, that it does not mean that God constricted himself and removed himself from this place, because it is not possible for there to be any existence in which the infinite is not found. And that's for two reasons. Number one, because of the Ein Sof, the infinite, that by very definition, the Ein Sof is the entirety of existence. And it is not possible for there to be a place or an existence in which he is not found. Number two, from the perspective of the creations, it isn't possible for them to have any existence or place in which the infinite is not found, because the entire essence of existence of anything and everything is only the infinite light, because that is the only existence which is constant and permanent. Consequently, even now, it's what forms the inner of the entire existence of creation. It's not like all of a sudden there was something more than was there beforehand, but rather the entirety of existence is a manifestations of God's light. As it says, man de nafach midilei nafach, the one who breathed of himself. And there is no other power or existence other than Hashem. And therefore, the meaning of the word tzimtzum is really hastara, hiding, that God hid himself from the view of his creations, creating a reality in which it appears as if he has removed himself from that place. And we'll see, not tonight, Mirza Hashem, in the next Shaar, how that even though it's well known that there is a machlokes, a disagreement, we'll discuss that that's not so simple, that there really is a disagreement about the nature of Tzimtzum. And the Arizal goes on to say that this process of concealment took place in the middle of his light. Now, the word middle really doesn't have any meaning over here, because if we're talking about infinite, there is no middle within infinite. but rather the concept of the middle in our context means that the Tzimtzum took place, so to speak, in what was now going to be the focus of existence. That the Tzimtzum revealed the focus of what the infinite was now going, for lack of a better term, to be busy with. Because again, the focus of the Ein Sof now was going to be to create creations, and the Tzimtzum is the actualization of that plan. And he says it's sort of like in a double terminology, b'nekudas hamerkaz ha'emtsoi, in the center middle point. And why does he use both terms, center and middle? It's to point out that we're not talking about a spatial point, but that this is only a metaphor for the place that is now going to be the center of importance. The Tzimtzum hid the power of God's light, because if God's light would be revealed to its fullest extent, that would leave no place for there to be creations. And therefore, it was only through the Tzimtzum, only through this hiding of his light, was it possible to create a place in which we do not see or experience the powerful light. And again, we'll discuss this more in our next class. Have a good evening.